bring on a good friend of mine, one of my colleagues over with the Crimson Tide Sports Network, the one and only Roger Hoover. Roger, I appreciate you joining us on the Miller's Edge this morning. How are you?
Doing very well. Thank you so much for having me on. I've been enjoying the show so far, and congratulations for a good start.
Appreciate that, Roger, always.
Thanks, Roger.
Man, well, we got you on here. You're an expert, right? You cover every sport imaginable. So my first question, Roger, is what's your favorite sport to cover?
I'll take the politician's answer. I kind of like all the different sports for different reasons. Like, I love a football game week and, like, all the work you have to do on Monday and Tuesday. You start building everything towards Saturday, and then Saturday you just get to enjoy the finished product of having a game and a great broadcast with our great team that you're a part of on the Crimson Tide Sports Network. Basketball is probably my favorite sport to call play-by-play for, just because it's 5-on-5. It's easy to identify all the different players that are on the court. And then I kind of love baseball too. I was in the minor leagues a long time, and Jacksonville, Florida, calling it, and I've always just enjoyed the rhythm and the pace of baseball. It's probably my favorite sport out of any I get to call. So really all of the different ones are fun. And then even, last year I got to be part of the Alabama soccer team, winning the SEC championship, calling a lot of their games on SEC Network Plus. So again, there's always good stories. You like telling good stories, and we've been fortunate to have that at Alabama.
Roger, hope you're doing well again. Thanks for joining us here on the Miller's Edge. And I'm Papa Miller, if you want to call me Papa, that old gray beard, you fat, that's all right.
Just call him Corey, Roger. Please don't call him Papa.
No,
that's a little weird.
No, I don't think I'll call you Papa just yet.
He's wearing tight shirts, mediums, and eating broccoli. Well, that's not me. I'm eating grits and biscuits from down at the beach at these breakfast joints, man. That's what I do. But anyway, I want to talk to you about the baseball team. Alabama, hosting. Regional since 2006, and we don't have to in detail, but we know what happened with this baseball team, the leadership of the baseball team. But I think the storyline is still how they handled that, how they played throughout, finished the year, and set themselves up, I believe, to host and be able to win their regional. Because when you look at the teams, I don't see juggernauts there. I see teams that they definitely have the ability to win.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the best thing about playing in the SEC is you're so ready for this time of the year. Even when the bracket was announced, fans were a little disappointed that Alabama was the number 16 national seed. And then if you were able to win the regional and be matched up with the number 1 seed like Wake Forest, I'm going to be honest with you. I think Alabama's probably played 4 or 5 teams from the SEC that are better than Wake Forest. I think the Demon Deacons have certainly had a good year, but they've also benefited by playing in the ACC and being able to rack up a lot of different victories, whereas these SEC teams sometimes don't have the prettiest records because they beat up on each other as the season goes along. But I think Alabama's got a great draw. I think you look at, first of all, Nichols will be the first opponent that Alabama's got to get past tomorrow to try and move into the winner's bracket. They're going to be throwing the Southland Conference Pitcher of the Year in Jacob Myers, the guy that went 9-1, had a 1.93 ERA, and for a mid-major league, the Southland's pretty good, with a lot of talent, especially in the state of Louisiana. So I think Alabama's got a tall order tomorrow, but again, it's nothing they haven't seen so far this season. They've already faced one of the teams in the regional, Troy, twice this year. It picked up 2 really good wins against them, one in Tuscaloosa and one in Montgomery, and then you're taking on a Boston College team that is battle-tested from the ACC as well, and they kind of thought they would be hosting a regional. So I think they have a lot of momentum coming in as a number 2 seed, of being a little disrespected, that I'm sure they feel like, by the committee, and really wanting to have an upset against an SEC team like we saw happen a little bit last year, most notably when Notre Dame was able to beat Tennessee in the Super Regional when Tennessee was the number 1 seed. That was a big moment for ACC baseball, and Boston College is hoping they can do something pretty similar this year against Alabama. But guys, this is a team that is just veteran-led. They've kind of seen a little bit of everything in their time at Alabama, including going on the road and playing in a regional in Ruston, Louisiana 2 years ago, and a regional eventually won by NC State, a team that made it to the College World Series. So they're just a bunch of guys that are experienced, and I think they're ready for the moment. They've certainly been battle-tested throughout this month of May, given the coaching change earlier in the month, and then playing some of their best baseball immediately after, I think speaks to the character of this team.
Roger, you are so knowledgeable, man. I mean, I don't even know how you remember all of these facts, man. This is why
That is
you're as
pretty
good as
amazing.
you are. Yeah, no, this is exactly why he's so good. He's talented, man. He's like a walking encyclopedia, and he's got the voice to match. Sorry, so Roger, I got to put you on the spot here
Yeah.
because I did some homework, and
Hmm.
am I correct that are you a Rocky Top, Tennessee grad?
I did go to school there, but I
Oh
went to school
man.
there for 4 years, but I've been here for 9. I mean, I saw the light, as we sing about church. So I am certainly in the right place right now.
Okay, well, fair enough. We understand. Well, I guess I have no other choice but to ask you though. Alabama is facing Tennessee right now in the Women's College World Series as we speak. So, who are you pulling for right now, Roger?
The
Oh,
Tide,
oh.
absolutely. My guy Patrick Murphy has been so nice to me throughout the years with a lot of interviews, and he's had to put up with a lot of dumb softball questions for me because softball. You mentioned all the sports I do know. Softball, I probably know the least about. So Patrick Murphy's kind of been my Yoda all throughout the years, kind of teaching me all about softball. And I love his team. I love the student athletes they have, especially a couple I've gotten an interview like Montana Fouts, Jim Johnson, Ashley Pranky. They're just top notch. So I've been roll tide all the way for a long, long time. So yeah, that even when you brought it up, it sounded like a distant memory. I look back at pictures sometimes now, and I'm like, that really wasn't me, was it? So yeah, definitely rolling with the tide and enjoying every bit of it.
Good stuff. We'll let you off the
Roger
hook.
Hoover, one of our great voices of Tide, Crimson Tide Sport for sure. Christian, you're not doing brother any kind of favors. I mean, listen, you know what I mean? This is your partner, your colleague. I mean, you come on, Christian.
I just had to ask. Like I said, I had no clue, and when I saw it, I was just shocked. I didn't know. So then I was like, well, I got to ask him who he's pulling for. That ironically, both of his teams. Well, he might not necessarily claim Tennessee anymore, but he could if he wanted to. I just had to ask the question. You're right. I shouldn't have put him on the spot though, because now everybody's going to be, oh, Roger Hoover went to. Look, I'm sorry, Roger. My apologies.
No, I mean, this is the Miller's Edge. You guys got to bring the edge. And I mean, I was ready for the rush when it was coming.
Exactly.
Hey, listen, man. You listen. I'm a Gamecock guy, right? That's my heart and soul. I mean, but I'm a Bama fan. I mean, someone asked me that too before, like when Christian was playing Alabama. He goes, "Well, if Christian and Alabama played South Carolina, who are you going to pull for?" I'm like, Alabama. And they were like, what? Because I'm like, your flesh and blood is there, right? You you crazy? I'm not going to pull against my son. Now,
or you knew we would win the game.
I wouldn't be mad.
No, I think you pulled for us because you had the bright mindset of Alabama would whoop up on Carolina, which they did in 2019.
Well, I mean, we went to the game,
you were smart
I know it's going to be a blowout, but I mean, it's still anyway. At least have that to lean on. Now Shea Beamer's there doing this thing. We got, as my mama used to sing in the church, better days are coming. They're coming. So better days are coming for South Carolina, no doubt. Okay, I'm gonna go back to baseball, Roger, because this team intrigues me. When I look at Tommy Seidel, when I look at Andrew Pinckney, and some of these guys have played some great baseball leaders of this baseball team, really showed themselves, I thought, really strong in the SEC tournament as they went, 2-2, I believe. Can they keep that fire going? I mean, these guys have been like the cornerstone of the baseball team. What do you expect from these guys in this regional play?
I think they can keep it going because they were still so close from even having a very different week in Hoover. Had they just been able to hold on to that lead against Florida on the Wednesday ball game, went to extra innings, took a 6-3 lead. Tommy Seidel, who was a Harvard graduate who transferred to Alabama to close out his career, he gets the go-ahead bases clearing double. Alabama's up 6-3. You're feeling really good, but then Florida gets 4 straight hits to start the inning, including a walk-off 3-run homer. And maybe it was a good learning lesson for our freshman closer, Alton Davis, who had been really lights out all throughout the month of April and May. That may be a moment for him to learn and get better from moving forward. And you kind of would rather those moments happen earlier in the year, maybe like an SEC tournament, instead of, say, this weekend in the NCAA tournament. But the leadership's great, starting with the first guy you mentioned, Andrew Pinckney. I think he has been just a great ambassador for this program, really similar to some of the great players we've seen in recent years, like whether it's Herb Jones of the men's basketball team, Bryce Young with football. I mean, you could put Andrew Pinckney in that category, the way he has been a great leader on the field, offensively, bashing a lot of home runs. Defensively, he's probably got the strongest arm of any SEC outfielder I've seen in over a decade calling SEC baseball. So you couple that with what he's able to do in the classroom. He's already been named the SEC Co-Scholar Athlete of the Year. They don't get any better than Andrew Pinckney, but Jim Jarvis, shortstop, Seidel, as I mentioned, Matt Cassetti, who's been catching, Dom Temez, who's been DH. And then they have some good young guys, too, like Colby Shelton's a freshman who has led the way with 21 home runs this season. I like the fact, too, that it's not just an all-or-nothing year for Alabama baseball. There is a foundation for future success with players like Caden Rose or Colby Shelton, who are going to be learning from some of these veteran players, these fifth-year seniors that have meant so much to the program. I like the fact that the younger generation of Crimson Tide players are here as well, and they're going to be motivated to try and keep this thing moving going into next year.
Roger, I have one more question before we let you go, and I want to transition over to basketball real quick. We saw Alabama basketball, they lost pretty much all their assistant coaches. Majority of the team pretty much moved on and at least entered their name in the NBA draft. Some of them stayed. Now we just heard and learned that Mark Sears and Javon Quinterly actually will be withdrawing themselves from the draft and coming back to Alabama. What is the significance of those guys returning, and what are your expectations for that program coming up after losing some great players like Brandon Miller, Noah Clowney, but also learning that they'll get two of their important players coming back?
Yeah, I think it really is important that Sears and Quinterly have announced that they do want to come back and be part of this next, hopefully, great Crimson Tide team. There's no doubt it's going to look a lot different. The transfer portal has been very, very busy for basketball. I think that might be the one sport that's impacted by the portal the most, since, again, you only have 5 players going to be on the floor at the same time. You can really bolster your roster if you do things the right way at this time of the year, and I think even Mark Sears coming in last year from Ohio, he kind of gave a good boost to a team that the year before could have really used a player like him and probably would have had a deeper run if Sears had been on this roster. But I love the fact that he and Quinterly coming back. I think JQ near the end of the season was playing his best basketball as he was a year removed from that tough ACL injury that he had in the previous year's NCAA tournament. So I like the fact that there's going to be some leadership to go with what's going to be a very new roster. As you mentioned, replacing new assistant coaches is going to be really, really tough, but already Nate Oates has made some good hires there. And kind of like with Coach Saban, I always trust Coach Saban's judgment when it comes to whether it's assistant coaching hires, starters for any different position on the field. You always give him the bit of doubt. I think Nate Oates has earned that too with this basketball program, with the great success that he's been able to have creating this program into being, in his first 4 years, a 2-time SEC champion. When you consider the caliber of coaching all across the SEC and how good the SEC has been in that stretch, to do what he's done, especially since the pandemic, winning 2 of the last 3 SEC championships, is remarkable. So I think it's going to be a lot of new faces. You're going to need to listen to the Crimson Tide Sports Network to make sure you know who everybody is on the floor, but we'll have you covered for what should hopefully be a really exciting year of Alabama basketball.
Roger Hoover of the Crimson Tide Sports Network and many other things. Man, you were phenomenal, hands down one of the best in the business. Thank you so much for your time and joining us on the Miller's Edge. Before we let you go, tell everybody where they can follow you and keep up with you.
Yeah, thank you so much. And again, really thrilled for you guys to have this show, getting to work father and son together. That's amazing. So really rooting for you guys. Look forward to listening a lot. You can follow me on social media at Roger_Hoover. And then the Crimson Tide Sports Network is a place to go as well, at UA_CTSN. Even as we get into, quote unquote, the off season, even though baseball and softball hopefully will be playing for a while, we're going to have a lot of football content coming up on our show, Crimson Drive, driven by NASCAR every Thursday at 2 o'clock. And a lot of different cool things on social media as well to get fans fired up for the football season. The guys, once we hit the month of June like we are today on June 1st, I'm always feeling like, all right, it's getting a little bit closer. And by the time the camp starts, I'm going to be ready to run through a brick wall. So we look forward to getting fans fired up as well for what we hope to be a great Crimson Tide football season.
Absolutely, man. Roger, thank you so much.
You got me pumped up. I'm normally the get people fired up guy, preacher. I'm the evangelist of the radio. But boy, you got me fired up, Roger Hoover, man. That's some good stuff, man. Looking forward to having you back on the Miller's Edge. And I do got one quick question before we hit the break. Tell me what
You
it
got
was like doing some work for the Jacksonville Jumbo Shrimp.
It was a lot of fun. I got to be the last broadcaster for the Jacksonville Suns and the first one for the Jacksonville Jumbo Shrimp. And I was a hit at parties when I would introduce myself as, I'm the voice of the Jumbo Shrimp. Seeing people's reactions was priceless. We sold a lot of ball caps with shrimp on them. We had a lot of fun. It was definitely a blast, and definitely missed my time down in Florida. But again, everything's good, rolling with the tide.
Thought about it. I love Jacksonville. Spent a lot of time there on the golf course with my buddy Jim Frick, man. Again, Roger Hoover, Crimson Tide Sports, thank you very much for your time in the Crimson Tide Sports Network. Definitely going to have you back on many, many times. Have a great rest of your day.
All right, guys, anytime. Thank you, and roll tide.
Roll Tide.
Roll Tide.